think that this can really do something.
You're here. Yes, and then I think we'll let the panelists wrap up. Okay.
I'm a member of a political party, and I was inspired in 2008 when a bunch of people who were opposed to the war came, and they were all excited about, not that woman whose names were like every foot, every 9 inches or so around the auditorium, but President or Senator Obama. And I was amazed that we had 3 big rooms at the local high school full of people, and the governor spoke at 3 rooms, 3 times on her way around campaigning for election. There was incredible turnout, where it used to be that I never saw someone else from my precinct. I think I had 17 or 20 people. Incredible turnout of people who wanted to be Democrats. They said they were Democrats on that day. And I felt, although I'd seen a similar thing in '04, I don't remember what it was like. I felt that this was there was a strengthening of the party. In a way it was. There were old people who felt there was a newer blood and they went home. And there were younger people who they became involved, and I swear on Inauguration Day 2009, they went home. And it's I'm resentful of the AWOL Democrats, the people who don't go to our Democratic meetings and say, this is the things that you guys work for, that we work for, that we expect out of you congressman and you president and you senator. We're not there. The senators have a free ride. The congressmen have a free ride. The elected Democrats have a free ride. Many of them don't care about it. But we stated in our platform before and since, and we need people involvement, not third parties, fourth parties, fifth parties. We need people involvement.
Oh boy, the last person to speak always totally brings up something we could spend another 2 hours debating. Maybe the panelists here will want to address some of that. I'll just say very briefly, Wall Street owns the Democratic Party, and there's a lot of wonderful people who are in the ranks, but they have no say, and they will never have any say. So, would the panelists like to make some wrap-up comments?
Yeah, well, that's a good topic. The whole people's movement thing. I mean, why didn't people come back? I mean, I think they were just sold down the river. I mean, time and again, the labor movement wanted right to organize a union, was not delivered. One thing after another. The one that I thought, I mean, this whole thing, Obama wants to tax the rich people. Well, and why should anti-war movements have ever supported him? He wanted to escalate the Afghan war. He said so right from the beginning. But the one that took the cake for me was this whole thing. Now Obama says he wants to, tax the rich people. Well, at the end of 2010, when Bush's tax cuts were about to expire, they had majorities in both houses, the Democrats and the presidency. All they had to do was sit on their hands and let it expire. No. They extended the tax cuts, and then they knew that they couldn't put the tax back because the Republicans would have the House, and they'd never be able to do it. And now they talk about it. But then, they can't do it. It was a total cynical maneuver. What we're watching here is the mechanics of how a capitalist political party delivers on its promises to the working class. And that's why people, I think, are not, kind of coming back to the fold. Because they're getting smothered in the fold.
Our conscience went home.
Yeah, well.
No, wait, you had your turn.
Yeah, I'm just trying to explain, sort of like how I feel that kind of went down. And I believe, I agree with the brother here that talks about a people's party, a working class party. It needs to be clearly for the working class, funded by the working class, organized by the working class, with a program that is for the working class. That is not the definition of the Democratic Party. Barack Obama got a lot more money from finance capital and Morgan and all those people than anybody else did. That's why things go down the way they go down. Right, and so we need our own. Okay, I'm sorry. I got it. And so I just feel like really, folks have talked a lot about all the potential of this Occupy Wall Street movement, and I feel like that is really something that's ringing with people because it's against corporate greed, and it's really expanding its consciousness as we go. I just feel like we just have to combine that with a movement that fights for workers' rights, that fights and does whatever it takes to get jobs for everyone, and then connect that into one movement with a movement to end these wars. And then that's one movement that is democratic, where everyone has a voice, and then it will go, I think, far. And I think when we're organizing that movement, we should never forget those folks who are still inside the military machine. We must support them with everything we have. Thanks.
In 1862 was when the first conscious objector was recognized by the government, and that was during our Civil War. We've had conscious objectors all of our war-speaking lives, pretty much. And we still have them in the prisons now. I've got some paperwork from Doreen that she sent me about some people at Fort Lewis that I didn't even know about, which I would probably go talk to, because they probably need my support. I've been through it. Yeah. They need your support because you've been there for me. As for our country, I think that as long as we have them against them, whether it's blacks against whites, whether it's Republicans against Democrats, whether it's rich against poor, whether it's working class against rich class, whatever it is, we're not going to get ahead. And like I said earlier, the ideal structure would be to let the power of the government be by the people. Your one vote is all it is. Voting to put someone in office to make your vote for you is obviously a historical disaster. I don't care if they're a Democrat or Republican or whatever you want to call them, if you're going to put your faith in one person to make your vote every single time the way you want it to happen, it's not going to happen. You know, I can put my wife in the office and she's not going to vote the way I want her to every single day. So it's just the way it is. I don't believe in, you know, that you can have, you know, opposite sides. And our country has been going through this forever about them against them. And so the racism going on in the military, the sexism going on in the military and in the country, you know, my wife goes on to Yahoo all the time and reads an article. And then the comments, there's 70,000 comments about something that happened. And the comments range from someone say, oh, I understand, to, you know, F that nigger, you know, or whatever. It goes crazy. You know, if it's something about a bomb, or if it's something about the banks, or if it's something about immigration, or if it's something about whatever. Our country is at a very volatile point right now. And in my opinion, this is the best time to take everyone's concerns, not just the Wall Street concerns, but the concerns about race, and the concerns about the labor, and the concerns about the government, and put it all out there. You know, the only way to change, you know, a country or a structure is to put it all out there. We've seen other third world countries or whatever go through it. Russia went through it. We can go through it. And I think that we can come out on top. And like I said, the vote for, if the majority of the country votes for something that I voted against, I lose. Okay, we'll do it that way. I'd rather be that way than to say, I put Obama in charge of me and whatever he says goes. Or I put, you know, Gingrich, whatever her name is, or whatever, in charge of me, and whatever he says goes. I don't want that anymore. And I don't think that we should have that. I think we should be able to put a vote, majority wins.
Good point.
I really want to speak to the earlier comments about indoctrination in terms of sexism, racism. I'm just going to say discrimination. I don't agree with that at all. That's not my experience. That's never been my experience. If the Army was a place where I was constantly discriminated against, or I saw racism, or I saw sexism, or I saw people being treated unfairly due to their sexual orientation or their religion, it's absolutely not an organization that I would ever be a part of. As a matter of fact, my experiences are the exact opposite. When I went through boot camp, which was extremely grueling, all of my drill sergeants, all of my superiors were people of color and were women, and made it very clear to me that I would not be treated any differently than anyone else. As a matter of fact, there was no, they all the time saying there's no black, there's no white, you are all green. You are all green. There's no sexual orientation, there's no gender, you are all green. And
Appropriate color choice.
Green and experienced, I think.
yeah. Well, but I mean literally, and part of what I do within my unit is to educate people about culture. We celebrate the different months of, cultural heritage. And one other thing that I know you asked about the PSYOPs, and I can't speak to that, but one thing that I can say, having been in war, in my experience, is we follow the Geneva Conventions to a T. I mean, even more so than you would think. For example, I'm trying to make it quick, but for example, running convoys. We ran our convoys during the day. Well, the Iraqis, the people, were getting sick of seeing us. They didn't want a military presence there, so we moved our operations to night. So guess what happens at nighttime when you're rolling down a main supply route? You're going to get hit, and we got hit so much more. And we are really educated about the Geneva Conventions and the rules of engagement, and everyone followed those. And so I really wanted to put that out there, that there's a lot more of a progressive feel in the military. I think a lot of people think of it as just being very conservative and very rigid, and that's absolutely true in some areas, but there's a lot of progressive support, and it's actually a very politically correct environment. So, which is really hard for people to believe, and I wish it was a more open place where people could come and experience and kind of see, but after 9/11 they don't let a lot of people within, but yeah, so I don't feel like the military is a place of sexism and discrimination. It absolutely happens, just like it happens in the civilian side. And I fight to, rid the world, which means the military, as well as within, community organizing and in my job, in my school, ridding the world of inequality and promoting social justice. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks.
I do have to say, not everyone says that as their experience.
Absolutely, and that's why I try to say in my experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There were a few people who wanted to make announcements before we break up and start enjoying informal conversation. Where is she? Oh, there you are. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to invite folks or save the date. I'm involved with Radical Women, and we will be having a Halloween party on October 29th, Saturday. Right here in this place will be transformed into a wonderful Halloween bash. So save the date. It'll start at 7:30. We'll have a dinner. There'll be dancing. There'll be some political entertainment, and there'll also be a bar. So yay! And there's flyers with a short summary of it on the orange flyer for that.
Okay. Celso, were you going to make an announcement?
Sure. Number one, war is the enemy of the poor.
Yes.
And, MLK, of course, a year before he got killed, I just want to mention this first because it was a topic that you've been discussing. And he was telling basically the government that, we should stop the war. It was against Vietnam, of course, and basically the campaign to help out the poor was there. And I think it's quite appropriate right now that that's kind of where we are, the 99%ers versus the 1%. So to me, it's kind of code 99, get rid of all of this taxation, tax the rich and help out the poor. So, I'm from the ILW, for those of you who do not know. I'm sorry I was not here earlier. I had some other things I had to get done. I have other things in life, I guess. So, but I'm glad that I'm here, and I've been asked to discuss about what's been going on in Longview. And so, for those of you who do not know what's been going on in Longview, I'll just briefly give you an update. What happened is that basically a multi-corporation, Bungie, which is also a subsidiary of which is the EGT, went over to Longview and they decided to build a grain operation there. Well, the grain operation at the very place where they built was being operated by the ILWU. And it was already with the understanding that if they built a grain operation there again, that the ILWU were going to be contracted as the workers there. Of course, the community contributed about $46 million out of the $200 million there. Mind you now, this is a multi-corporation, basically a Korean outfit, getting the money from the feds, from the city, from the county, from the state, and basically saying, oh, now that we got this place built, we don't want the ILWU here. Okay? So what's happened is that they rejected. At first we were trying to negotiate with them, but they said no. They hired a different union, and they're setting it up basically with a union against another union. Okay? And then, of course, we find out later that the AFL-CIO, Mr. Trumka, tried to keep down a motion in the Oregon AFL-CIO convention, but we were successful here in Washington State. And one of those things, of course, in support of the ILWU Local 21. And we've had some conflict and some things that's been going on, so those things I can talk to you about that's in the newspaper. One of those, of course, that our president was there, International President Rob McElrath was there voicing his disapproval and trying to stop a train. And so he was arrested, and some of our other members were arrested. And so in force, we went down there. Some people, newspaper basically said about 500 people was there, and we emptied out, we broke down the chains, we broke down the gate, and we went inside and took the grain from the train and drained it all out. So 3 weeks later, which was on September 30th, the federal judge in Tacoma fined the ILWU about $300,000 plus for the destruction of the property and so forth and so on. And prior to that, they had been arresting members of the ILWU. They've been going to their houses and doing it on a Sunday, overtime they mind you, and they're complaining about their cost overrun about policing the place. And so we have filed also a police brutality action, against the police there, and we are going to appeal the fines, of course, and then also since there was an injunction against the members of the ILWU, there was the Women's Auxiliary, the women, wives, and daughters, and other supporters went to the railroad tracks to stop the next ensuing train. But they were pepper sprayed, and they were also arrested. And so now it's still an ongoing battle, still going struggle. And I see that sign over there that says we support the ILWU. So I would like to thank you on behalf of all my brothers and sisters from Local 21, as well as the ILWU. Thank you for your support. And the word is, for the ILWU, that is, stand down and stand by. So there's to be
More.
ongoing action, so. And also on the AFL-CIO convention this summer, there was a resolution number 2, which is basically the resolution which stated the final words was that no justice, no work.
A great sentiment. Okay, thank you everyone for a great discussion and, one more announcement?
The guy over there, too.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
If anybody wants, I'm of many of your generations here. I've got a review of where we went wrong and what we have to do as gray-haired people. This analyzes the 60s, 70s, 80s, and whatever. And what I will say to you is I'm in the streets between 1 and 5 times a week all by myself. I got a chance to meet the younger people in our society who are not here right now. They get it. They're on board. We need to get younger. So feel free to take one of these.
Okay. Yes.
And I have some other literature for people to grab. And I want to make sure this follows up on the discussion we were having. It's a brand new booklet that just came out, Socialist, Feminist, and the Revolutionary Party. And it speaks to a lot of the discussion tonight, so I hope people pick up a copy of that. It talks about having a plan. And this is one other book, One Hemisphere Indivisible. I urge people to pick it up because it goes a lot into the, the changing face of U.S. imperialism, and just focuses on Latin America kind of before the war on Afghanistan and Iraq started, but it kind of, it talks about we talked a lot about the economic attacks tonight, and it also talks about the military as an arm of that and how they work together. So I thought people might find those interested in the right over there.
Okay, great. Please stay
Now I get
around
my
and
beer.
chat and have something from the bar.